Many of the great teachers that I admire remain relevant because they were talking about what I believe to be universal truths. Ram Dass is one such teacher. And when he talks about fear and uncertainty, what could be more relevant to the way we feel now? Look around your fear. Look over there. Uncertainty. It abounds. It's around. Ram Dass, whose meditations I frequently do, there are loads of good ones on this channel. I'll put a link to a few if you want. And even my meditations that I do in Above the Noise, my Luminary podcast, which you can subscribe to, are heavily influenced by the brilliant meditations that Ram Dass runs. I love him because he comes from an intellectual philosophical background, a Harvard professor turned LSD pioneer, and ultimately spiritual guru. What a dude, what a guy. Ram Dass, the great Ram Dass. Formerly, what was his name? Alpert, Richard Alpert. It's on the research, but I remembered it, but I've got it a little bit wrong. He's not Alpert, he's not a muesli, it's Richard Alpert. His most well-known book, Be Here Now, tells the story of his spiritual awakening and how you can use meditation and yoga. He, along with the Beatles, specifically George Harrison and Ravi Shankar, is one of the great inaugurators of the fusion of East and West, which is still playing out to this day, and is the reason I've got tattoos like this one of Durga, goddess of female energy, with my daughter's and my wife's initials on them. Right now, Ram Dass is a big philosophical influencer. He went to his grave post-stroke, still believing in these ideas, still exploring them. He was a witty, beautiful, warm, crazy guy. God rest your eternal soul, Ram Dass. Let's see what we can learn from him now about fear and uncertainty.
When there is a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. When there's a lot of uncertainty, there is usually a lot of fear attendant to it. And how people react to fear is interesting. Some people just consume more. They say, I'll get it while I can because it's all going to blow up anyway. They become more and more materialistic.
How interesting that the first thing Ram Dass observes about fear is its tendency to drive us towards consuming. I have often said, I believe it to be true, and I certainly didn't come up with the idea, that our culture runs on fear and anger and desire, emotions that need to be carefully managed, observed, understood, recognized as part of our natural repertoire of feeling, but you don't build a bloody culture around them. But when you understand that fear leads to consuming, because it's a way of sort of, anchoring yourself, soothing yourself, fulfilling a basic primal biological function, you can see why a culture that relies on you consuming might generate a lot of fear. This place where spirituality and politics comes together, rather than assuming that spirituality is something that you've got to do on your own in a pair of leggings all quietly out of harm's way with a joss stick lit, is what I love. To be spiritual is to be radical. Ram Dass understood that if you awaken yourself as an individual, you're going to be a problem to the system because the system wants you sleeping, baby.
Some people want to be on the right side when the doors close, so they become fundamentalists in one sense or another. They grab on to right as opposed to evil.
Brilliant. Another thing he's pointed out, look at this time of fracture, fragmentation and oppositionism, the dumb clanging clamour of certainty among those who would be better off if they were to open their mind and consider opposing views. You know, the old crazy, hacky, left-right arguments where people are just so determined that they're right. Say, for example, if you're a vegan, and I am a vegan, what's the reason that you're vegan? To be compassionate to animals. I don't want to kill animals. I don't want animals to suffer so I can eat. So compassion is what you really are. You're really about compassion rather than veganism. So if someone's not a vegan, how do you treat them? Well, I treat them like shit and I judge them. Where's the compassion that was meant to be the principle that underwrote your veganism? What if someone has different beliefs to you in any area of life? If you have a simple Sesame Street ethic like compassion and kindness underwriting you or your behavior or your Weltanschauung, your ideology, then when you're confronted with someone you disagree with, unless they're actually sort of breaking into your house or putting under threat something that requires direct, immediate physical response, you're going to be chill.
And the other group uses the uncertainty, as a way to deal with their inner relationship to uncertainty, and they go inward. And you can see the society dealing with the fear that way.
Ram Dass received his spiritual education from Neem Karoli Baba, the great Indian sage and mystic. There's some great stories about him elsewhere on YouTube, but he was a miracle-making mystic, the kind that, if you're a spiritual person like I am, you want that. I want flash, bang, crash, bang, wallop, lightning, things appearing out of the palms of people's hands. But sometimes spirituality is a bit more like sitting quietly and staying out of trouble and being nice to everybody. But at this point, Ram Dass is embodied and is becoming the teacher. So of course, the primary principle that he is espousing is go within, don't be distracted by the stimulant, return to the stimulation. What is it that you are feeling within yourself? You may be incorrectly ascribing it to external stuff when it's more likely internal.
It's interesting that all these religions, in our Western sense, I mean Christianity and Judaism and Islam, are really monotheistic. They believe in the one, like Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And yet, they always live within the two. It's like, it's all one, it's one except for me, or except for us. And so we end up mea culpaing ourselves.
I suppose what Ram Dass is saying there is if you and I are one with God, there is no point in judgment, or at least judgment is not conclusive. You can have principles, you can have values, you can have guiding ideas, but what you cannot have is a kind of dogmatic hegemony where dominance is assumed on account of a set of beliefs. Maybe the way that all people connect with divinity within themselves, whether that's through cultural, religious, theological avenues or not, it's the same feeling. And if it is, if the oneness is the same, then how can we judge one another? Now, I don't want to lead us into kind of a space of cultural relativism in saying that there are no values or there are no hierarchies of meaning. But when it comes to judging others, I think it is important to recognize that if the underwriting principle is we love one another because we are each other, because we're all strung along one single thread of consciousness, and to separate ourselves further through conflict is illusory and sort of stupid. If we have that as the dominating and guiding idea, separatism and its consequences will not be so dominant. When I talk about utopias, as I am now, whether it's an inner or an outer one, I recognise that a lot of people sort of say, well, that's not possible, it's impossible, da, da, da. But I know there will be flaws, I know there will be challenges, but don't use that to cut off at the ankles any intellectual exploration of alternatives. Ram Dass was bold and ambitious in his thinking. That's another thing I enjoy about him.
We say it's all one, but we don't really act as if it were all one, which is much more like holography.
No, we typically act as if we're very distinctly separate.
Distinctly, and we got the bad end. We got the the bad end of the stick too.
Yeah, original sin.
Absolutely.
Ram Dass will continue to be one of my spiritual and philosophical heroes. I'm really interested in investigating him more, particularly at this time where we are being governed by fear and uncertainty and doubt, where new ideas hang uneasily apart and a coalescent guiding ideology seems difficult to happen upon. But we will keep searching together through our investigation of these great teachers and their fantastic ideas. Please let me know if you would like me to look at any other videos of Ram Dass's, or sign up to Luminary and do my meditations that are heavily influenced by Ram Dass on Above the Noise, where you also get once a week a deep chat with a brilliant thinker, people like Jordan Peterson, Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Naomi Klein, Dia Khan. I mean, there's been so many episodes of this thing. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get it anywhere in the world via Apple, or you can subscribe to it through Luminary. Sign up to my mailing list at russellbrand.com so I can keep you engaged with these important ideas that I'm exploring. If you're in England, you can see me towards the end of the year. I'm doing 20 shows. There's not loads of tickets left. Get them. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, Awakening, so that you get all of my content, and turn on the notification bell. So the one thing that bothers you on your phone could be this thing, important breakthrough information that's going to help you cope with the hostile environment of this mad yet somehow imaginary world. Let me know in the comments what you want to see me talking about, and I'll do my very best to indulge you because I care about how you feel. Thank you.